Welcome to the fruitful life.
You can't just keep like hoping that things will turn out okay, because they're not going to. This is the real world now. You're an adult. Like, you need to learn to apply yourself, because like there's no safety net, there's no backup. Like, you need to make sure that you do this and do it well. So I think remarkably failing that early in my career helped me really like figure out that I needed to really go for something if I wanted to make it happen. My name is Grace Enemaku, and I am a Nigerian-Irish multidisciplinary designer and illustrator. My creative process, usually I'll have a look at the brief, chat to the client, etc., see what they're looking for, and then I go off and research. So a little bit of conceptual research, I was making lists, and then I'll take that and do a little bit of visual research as well. So the idea is that those start conceptually, go and look at visual examples and make a mood board. Love making a mood board. Once the mood board is done, present to client, see how they feel. Present the idea and the mood board to the client to get their feedback. And then I will do a sketch. So even whether it's a logo or an illustration, I would do a sketch. Well, I'll do like 1,000,001 thumbnails. Because I do these, like, you ever see not other artists, but some artists have like beautiful, like lovely sketches, and like I just have like these janky like like 3 centimeter thumbnails, and I have like 50 of them, because I'm just sort of like working out like composition and the idea, and like I don't want to get too emotionally attached to any of them just yet, because I want to see if, see what other ones pan out, and then I come back to them and I'll kind of like expand a couple that I feel are really working, and then I'll present them to the client. I feel like I have quite a collaborative process with my clients, so I feel like because they're very much on the journey with me, at all those early stages, once they see a sketch and they have an idea where it's going, they're happy to let me just like finish the thing, and they're usually delighted with the thing. So I would say I probably have a couple of messages in my work. One is that I just like to explore, the idea that there's so much weirdness and beauty in this world, and I think a lot of my work is quite surreal, but also quite fun and pop and kitschy, and I really like to kind of like lean into the strange beauty we have all around us. But also, I think the second message probably relates to a little bit about diversity. So I do really like to keep as many different diverse characters in all different manners, whether it's race, ethnicity, body type, etc., because I just feel like the world doesn't do enough. I feel like the world doesn't do enough, and when I was growing up, I definitely did not feel represented by a lot of the media in Ireland at all. And it obviously is a lot better now, there's still a long way to go, but I would love to be creating that work that my younger child self never got to see. And hopefully, the progress we've made now will be felt in our children's lifetime, so they won't have to go through the struggles that we went, is my hope anyway. I actually pushed back from both my mother and my father. So my father was Nigerian, my mother was Irish, and my father was like, why don't you want to be a nurse? Why don't you want to be a doctor? And I was like, well, first of all, I didn't have the points. I'm not going to get those points. But second of all, like, it just wasn't something that I was passionate about. And like, I knew that I wanted to do something to do with art. And he was like a little bit against it. But at the end of the day, I was just like, this is what I'm doing. And it'll be fine. I'll make it work. It's fine. But I have definitely had to deal with racism in the industry. And like, I feel like a lot of it wasn't necessarily malicious, but it was definitely very ignorant. Like, people using words that they definitely should not be saying. But then, you experience that racism in the industry, and like, I'm then forced essentially to call that out and say, please do not say that, because it is inappropriate and it's making me incredibly uncomfortable. And it's wrong. But if I don't do that, I will not be able to like live with myself. But I'm also aware that in doing that, I'm putting my career at risk, because, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be the person to be called like, oh, you said a racist thing. No one wants to hear that, but like, because other people aren't doing that as the only person of colour in the room, it's then my job to do it, and it's very, very frustrating. So I'd say that's probably been a barrier to my work, for sure. So I co-founded with the other 2 co-founders, Mick Chikanda and Greg Osborne. We co-founded an initiative called Design Up, which is essentially a platform and initiative partnered with the IDI, and our goal is to champion diversity for people of colour in the Irish design and creative industry. So our hope is to really, make those changes in the industry now, so the kids coming out of secondary school, out of college, going into the industry, they will have a lot less barriers to entry. Just do it. Like Nike had it right from the get-go. Just do it, because I know that there's so many young creatives who have so many great ideas, and they're so excited about being creative, but they haven't taken that first leap. And there's sort of a hesitancy and this idea that the first thing you come out with has to be amazing, it has to be your magnum opus, and it absolutely does not. Just make creative work, do creative things, and try not to get into your head too much. I won't quote this, but I will say to look up the video The Gap by Ira Glass. So essentially, Ira talks about, when you're a creative, when you're starting out, you kind of get into creative industry because you have great taste, you have an eye for aesthetics, and you have great ideas. But then when you start making things, they're kind of terrible. And because you have that eye and that taste, you're aware that the stuff you're making isn't great, and there's a gap between what you want to make and what you're actually capable of making. And a lot of people give up at that stage, or they think, oh, I'm not good at this, or this isn't something that I can do, but they don't realise that every creative side like this, literally, if you saw my drawings from even when I started out in college, they're just wild, and that's totally normal. And I think that really you have to overcome that step, and the only way to overcome it is just keep on making things and making things and making things and making things, and slowly, eventually, you'll close the gap and you will be where you want to be. But you have to take that leap first. So just do it. So the word fruitful to me means bountiful. It's sort of gathering your harvest, all the seeds of your hard work that you planted, and just receiving the fruits of your hard work at the end of the day. My hope for the future is to kind of expand into new areas of creativity and design and illustration. I always like to be trying new things and create new types of work that I've never done before. I have my first children's book coming out in September. Oh my god, September now. Coming out the 29th of September, which I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to do a lot more of them in the future. It's been a really fun avenue to go around and sort of designing for the little Grace that didn't necessarily get stories about little black girls, so I'd love to do more of that in the future.
Thanks for watching.